Hello, everyone. In a moment that left many people stunned, Rick Harrison, the familiar face from the popular TV show Pawn Stars, shared unexpected experiences for the first time after years of silence. In a quiet hospital room, he revealed things that had never been made public, shocking many. With a calm voice and sad eyes, Harrison recounted how he had unintentionally been caught up in events more complex than he ever imagined. During his search for the truth and his struggle with personal pressures, he said that he discovered a series of activities he never could have anticipated. These revelations are what kept him silent all these years. Though he didn't go into detail, his story raised many questions about what really happens behind the spotlight. These revelations not only shed light on the darker corners of fame, but also delivered a sincere message about the value of truth and the courage it takes to confront the past. Rick Harrison's latest disclosure has sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry. A figure once seen as a symbol of reliability, friendliness, and intelligence on television has now become the center of a multi-layered and emotional story. What he revealed not only exceeded the fans' expectations, but also opened up an unknown side of a man whom the public once adored as a model father figure. If you resonate with this journey, leave a 1 in the comments. If you feel differently, enter 0. Don't forget to like and share so more people can follow and reflect on this story. Rick Harrison was once the living embodiment of the American dream. Starting with a small pawn shop run by him and his father in Las Vegas, he gradually overcame seemingly insurmountable challenges to become a figure of great influence. His career was marked by relentless work ethic, perseverance, and fierce determination. No one could have predicted that this humble beginning would serve as the foundation for a television phenomenon. Rick's fame truly skyrocketed when the reality TV show Pawn Stars premiered and quickly captured the hearts of audiences worldwide. For over a decade, he impressed not only with his extensive knowledge and charming sense of humor, but also with the way he expressed his love for history, family, and traditional values. To many, Rick became like a beloved uncle, always ready with a good story to tell and the perfect advice to share at just the right moment. However, the spotlight doesn't always reveal the full truth. Behind the fame lies a quieter side that often goes unmentioned. Pawn Stars became a global icon, with hundreds of episodes aired in over 150 countries. Rick became a part of American pop culture, making appearances on major shows, conferences, and events around the world. While his shop saw tremendous growth in revenue, his personal wealth skyrocketed as well. But with the spotlight came the harsh scrutiny that no one could escape. As a perfectionist, Rick often reviewed episodes himself before they aired. He paid attention to every small detail, from facial expressions to dialogue, to ensure a polished and authentic image. He was also known for never joining any show without thoroughly preparing its content. This commitment helped him maintain his reputation as principled and wise over the years. However, a seemingly insignificant detail unexpectedly sparked a series of unanswered questions. The revelation that Rick had once adopted a daughter, a fact never mentioned in the 20 seasons of the show, created a massive wave of public interest. The media quickly jumped into action. Discussions, articles, and reactions on social media spread at lightning speed. People began to question Rick's private life, wondering about the things he had kept hidden for so long. Unverified information about financial transactions and complex business dealings began to surface. Some sources even mentioned the possibility of ties to cross-border networks, sparking heated debates. However, no official conclusions have been published yet. Still, the situation has somewhat shaken the perfect image Rick Harrison had built over the years. So, is Rick Harrison merely a victim of misunderstandings and media exaggeration? Or is there something deeper being concealed? That question still hangs in the air amidst an atmosphere of doubt, mystery, and anticipation from millions of viewers around the world. If you want to know the answer, leave a 2 in the comments to stay tuned. The real turning point, however, wasn't the financial documents or international transactions, as many had speculated. It began with a surprising moment, a quiet night in a hospital room. In that seemingly safe and enclosed space, a barely audible whisper from Rick Harrison created a ripple that shook the internet. Although it hasn't been officially confirmed, this statement forced the FBI to reassess the entire direction of the ongoing investigation. The overlooked areas at the AY headquarters, including high-security rooms and document storage tunnels, were suddenly reactivated. A personal secret no one had anticipated swiftly transformed into an international event, with numerous parties closely monitoring the situation. Those who once believed that a media crisis was merely a strategic game now face the harsh reality that the internet does not allow anyone to erase their tracks. A leaked video showed Rick lying in a hospital bed, with dim lighting and in a seemingly peaceful setting. In that moment, he whispered, "A child is an island." 6 simple words, almost meaningless when taken alone. But when they spread online, they created an unpredictable ripple effect. Online communities began to discuss, analyze, and dissect every word, every expression on Rick's face. From linguistics experts to criminal psychologists, professionals were invited to weigh in. People began to ask, are these just the rambling words of a delirious man or an inadvertently revealed suppressed memory? That phrase, many believed, could be the key to unlocking a series of events that had either been forgotten or deliberately concealed. Details that were once overlooked, mysterious phone calls, investments in the Caribbean, an island purchased under a subsidiary's name, suddenly took on an entirely new meaning. Each clue began to emerge like pieces of an incomplete map, all leading to a single destination. An unnamed island with no clear traces, but seemingly at the heart of an unsolved, mysterious network. On the morning of April 12th, Rick Harrison was admitted to the intensive care unit at Valley Medical Center in Las Vegas. Internal reports stated that he was hospitalized with severe dehydration, arrhythmia, and extreme psychological stress, factors that could lead to temporary coma. But the unexpected occurred at 3:17 a.m. Rick opened his eyes, and in a moment of delirium, he repeated the phrase, "A child is an island." A nurse present at the time recorded the phrase in the shift log, initially thinking it was just a vague remark. However, when it was brought up during the morning meeting, the medical team decided to report it to the hospital security department. Before long, the information leaked. A medical blogger in Nevada who caught wind of the information through an unofficial source anonymously tweeted the first mention of Rick's statement. Within hours, the post went viral. Discussions exploded on Reddit, YouTube channels posted analysis videos, and podcasts invited experts to decode the true meaning behind the strange phrase. Six words that seemed random have now sparked a series of hypotheses, analyses, and new questions. And Rick Harrison, once seen as a symbol of understanding and transparency, is now at the center of a mystery no one can explain. Many psychologists believe that not all seemingly meaningless words are truly without significance. Sometimes strange phrases can be expressions of the subconscious, a doorway into the deepest corners of the human mind. The phrase, "a child is an island," quickly overshadowed the legal controversy surrounding the financial lawsuit Rick Harrison was facing. From that point on, the public's attention shifted entirely, no longer focused on the numbers, but on the possibility of an undiscovered secret. The story surrounding Rick was no longer defined by what had been verified, but by what remained shrouded in doubt. As debates raged online about whether the phrase was a product of delirium or a genuine clue, a series of quiet yet powerful events began unfolding behind the scenes. Federal investigators quietly reopened the investigation into Rick's international trafficking activities, a case that had previously been shelved due to lack of concrete evidence. This time, their focus was no longer on antiques or rare artifacts as before. Instead, the attention shifted to the vague details mentioned in old customs declarations. A report from 2 years ago, previously overlooked, was brought back to the discussion table. The report mentioned a shell company indirectly linked to Rick, with shipments heading to the Caribbean via loosely controlled routes. Under mounting public pressure following the hospital incident, the FBI executed a search warrant at Rick's private residence in Nevada, which had once been used to store personal collections and rare artifacts. During the thorough inspection, they made a surprising discovery: a safe hidden behind a false wall in the basement. Inside, it wasn't artifacts, but dozens of encrypted hard drives, unlabeled, unmarked, and protected by biometric sensors. Immediately, a team of security technicians and decryption experts from Washington, D.C. was dispatched to handle the decryption process. While the decryption process is still ongoing, internal sources have revealed that a small portion of data from one of the hard drives has been successfully recovered, and it's enough to alter the course of the initial investigation. Among the files were mysterious emails using phrases like "supplement for the island in Q2," "keep silent about IS-1," and "rookie ready for VIP status." At first glance, these could be interpreted as common internal business jargon. However, when placed alongside the cryptic phrase Rick repeated in the hospital, they suddenly become much more suspicious. A sense of connection between the data, the language, and the behind-the-scenes activities began to form, as if everything was leading to a mystery larger than anyone had ever imagined. Linguists, cryptography experts, and cybersecurity specialists painstakingly decoded every character and phrase from the data recovered from the hard drives. The seemingly innocuous strings of symbols, initially understood as passwords or business terminology, were now being viewed through an entirely different lens, a sophisticated encryption system used to conceal human trafficking operations. A major question began to form among investigators and the public. Could Rick Harrison's seemingly legitimate business activities be concealing a darker, more frightening side? And if so, was Rick merely an indirect participant, or was he a central link in the entire chain? A phrase spoken in a fragile moment between life and death had set off an irreversible chain of events. The 6 words, "a child is an island," were no longer just a fleeting statement. They had sparked one of the most serious interagency investigations in years. As federal investigators combed through financial records, they simultaneously reviewed data on missing child cases in the 3 states where Rick had business operations: Nevada, Arizona, and California. The initial results were shocking. Some of the missing persons cases coincided with the timelines and shipping routes of companies that Rick owned or had stakes in. This shifted the nature of the investigation, turning it from a financial fraud suspicion into a federal humanitarian issue. A task force was established to review, cross-reference, and trace the data. At least 23 cases of missing children from 2014 to 2022 have been directly or indirectly linked to devices found at Rick's mansion. Each new connection not only deepened suspicions, but also escalated the gravity of the situation. The victim profiles revealed a troubling commonality. All were vulnerable individuals, ranging from children in foster care, runaway teens, to those who had been treated at drug rehabilitation centers. According to unpublished internal reports, many of these individuals had been approached by people claiming to be scholarship officers, representatives of nonprofit organizations, or international exchange programs. Promises of a better future, studying abroad, or escaping poverty lured them away from their last refuges. And then, they vanished. Not only did they disappear from the map, but also from the legal system. There were no referral records, no medical reports, no reliable digital traces. All that remained were assumptions and a phrase that seemed unrelated, now becoming the key to the mystery. A child is an island. From that moment, authorities completely changed their strategy. The investigation was no longer solely focused on examining financial transactions or inventory checks. It now shifted toward a well-organized human trafficking network, potentially disguised as cross-border trade. One of the first cases to be re-examined was that of April Langdon, a 14-year-old girl who went missing in Phoenix, Arizona in 2016. Initially, local police believed April had run away after a family argument, and the case was quickly dismissed due to a lack of evidence to pursue further investigation. But data from the hard drives, when cross-referenced with information from cell tower signals, showed that April's phone had pinged near a warehouse owned by a company connected to Rick just 48 hours after she went missing. 2 days later, from the same location, a container labeled RH4, found 9-81, departed the U.S., heading toward a port in the Caribbean. According to the customs declaration, the container was said to contain antique restoration equipment and high-end sporting goods. However, many now doubt these claims, as the contents of the container were allegedly undetectable by scanners and appeared to have never been declared in any official financial reports. Yet all efforts to trace the shipping receipts have proven futile. Not only was there a lack of transparency in the paperwork, but what shocked the investigation team was a strange recurring pattern that occurred at least 5 times. Each time a teenager went missing, a container would leave one of Rick's warehouses with unclear declarations and be sent to a location outside the United States. These shipments were headed to islands in the Caribbean, known for their lax border enforcement, and quickly became the focal point of the investigation. Satellite images revealed that one of these islands had been purchased by a subsidiary indirectly connected to Rick. Despite no registered residents, energy data and shipping traces indicated stable activity on the island. This brought the question back to what Rick had once mentioned: an island for children. These locations were often off the traditional tourist maps, owned by companies with strange names, lacking addresses, staff, and transparent tax records. Names like Sky Holdings, Bronze Needle Enterprises, and Seaward Ventures. Limited repeatedly appeared in financial transactions between Switzerland and the Virgin Islands, all linked to Rick through multiple layers of legal entities. What sent chills down experts' spines wasn't just the scale of the finances, but the ability to conceal human identities through this complex system. In several emails recovered from Rick's electronic devices, phrases like "Batch 3 is ready" and "This client prefers silence" appeared, which may seem normal at first glance, but in the context of the investigation, they were especially concerning. The term IS-1 was suspected to refer to a specific island, while the batch was believed to be a metaphor for a group of individuals being moved. An independent investigative team identified at least 7 shipments leaving the U.S. from 2017 to 2021, all heading to little-known coordinates and off the official radar. One destination stood out in particular: an island named Pelican Drift near the Virgin Islands. Once purchased by a company linked to Rick, it was now listed as abandoned in local records, a situation that is nearly impossible in international real estate transactions. As the emails, shipping records, and missing persons files began to align, a picture started to emerge. No longer about antique watches or rare books, but about a sophisticated network of operations backed by a man once regarded by the world as a symbol of knowledge and honesty. Rick Harrison once said in an interview, "Anything of value deserves to be preserved." But now, the public is asking, who decides that value? And does that include human lives? The phrase that once seemed meaningless, "A child is an island," has now become the focal point of a major investigation. The whispers from the intensive care unit began to stir the legal system as it became clear that this was no longer a simple financial case, but an unsolved mystery. What was being concealed wasn't just rare artifacts, but potentially human lives themselves. Part 3 of the investigation revealed a shocking truth. It wasn't just the network of shell companies and suspicious shipments, but also the digital traces left by Rick, the man once hailed as a symbol of American antique culture. After some vague comments in the ICU room, Rick unexpectedly mentioned an island never before referenced in any records. This prompted the FBI to expand their investigation and carry out a raid on Rick's mansion in Las Vegas. In the basement, behind a soundproof steel door with a precisely controlled climate system, investigators discovered a black ledger. It wasn't a diary, but a ledger. Each page was filled with unique codes, not in chronological order. Codes like IS-1, IS-2, ISBH appeared alongside unregistered islands that had shown up in financial transactions. Next to these codes were lists of encrypted names, including birth dates, nationalities, and red markings. One entry read, Batch 12, Shipping Schedule 18/7/2021, PHTIS-1. In a chilling coincidence, on the very same day, the tracking system recorded a container leaving a warehouse in Phoenix, owned by a company linked to Rick, disappearing from the system as it neared the Caribbean. This container, like previous shipments, was declared to be carrying sporting equipment, but there were no tracking codes or entry documents recorded at the destination. A logistics expert who had previously worked for U.S. Customs stated that only someone with a deep understanding of international shipping could orchestrate such a complex chain of events, ensuring the shipments went undetected, especially when the destinations were off the commercial radar. What shocked the investigative community wasn't just the connection of a famous TV personality to such a sophisticated system, but also the complexity he had created. This revelation led some veteran investigators to believe that Rick might not be acting alone, but rather as part of a larger underground organization, one that could have existed before Pawn Stars ever aired. A private flight operated by RH Executive Transit had departed Las Vegas for an undisclosed destination in the Caribbean. The records only listed cargo and personnel, but the investigation took a shocking turn when a team of cybersecurity experts successfully decrypted a hidden directory on Rick's computer. Inside the directory were surveillance videos, some showing small rooms with dim lighting and fixed cameras mounted at the back. The sound of running water, distant footsteps, and faint sobs echoed through the footage. A note attached to one of the videos read, "Video H1 149 SPF 14, non-compliant individual, move to lower level." As the experts dug deeper, they discovered a classification system based on inventory codes like RMTQSBF, resembling encrypted symbols used to track behavior and compliance. This system was disturbing not only because of its cold, transactional approach to classifying humans like commodities, but also because it could be part of a much larger network. In September 2021, an independent data analyst tracked the SVMZO1 wallet and discovered 14 small transactions totaling over $300,000. These transactions were then transferred to a private aviation company, with the final destination being Pelican Drift, the island once owned by Rick through a now-defunct subsidiary. As the evidence continued to pile up, questions about the value of human life only grew more complex and chilling. As the investigation unfolded, the final pieces of the puzzle were revealed by witnesses who had worked with Rick. A former assistant, who happened to possess a hard drive containing internal emails and flight forms, disclosed a message that read, "Make sure no one sees our faces when we arrive. The port must remain silent." A warehouse employee, whose identity is protected, also recalled hearing strange sounds coming from a container labeled Fragile, which was shipped privately but lacked a tracking number. When he asked the manager about it, the answer was that the speakers were broken. All the data from the ledger, testimonies, internal documents, and surveillance footage not only painted a complex case, but also exposed a hidden system organized like a shadow business, with clear processes, codes, rules, and profits. However, instead of trading goods, this system manipulated human lives. The phrase, "a child is an island," once considered meaningless, has now become the key to unlocking this entire underground network. A system that operates through a combination of technology, law, and media, it is no longer just a scandal, but a direct challenge to the entire legal and ethical framework of society. Rick Harrison, once famous for his statement that every object has a story and deserves to be preserved, may have revealed a darker story than anything ever aired on television. From a figure known for his sharp wit and intellect on screen, Rick has now become the focal point of the largest international investigation of the decade. His personal notebook, filled with codes, was not only a crucial clue, but also the key to unlocking a series of horrifying truths hidden behind the mysterious name Pelican Drift. Over the years, Rick had carefully crafted a flawless image, but everything began to unravel as investigators followed the encrypted notes in his black ledger. The mysterious code symbols and seemingly unrelated notes gradually led them to a small island 42 nautical miles from Antigua, an unexpected location that no one had ever considered. With these chilling discoveries, Operation Drift Fall was launched on July 4th, U.S. Independence Day. The operation involved multiple agencies, including the Department of Homeland Security, FBI, Coast Guard, and international experts from Interpol. The task force, equipped with drones, advanced surveillance technology, and a special search warrant based on Rick's testimony and evidence from the Black Ledger, was preparing to uncover the island's horrifying secrets. Before landing, 3 tactical teams were assigned. Team Alpha approached from the south, where maritime traffic had been detected via satellite. Team Bravo approached from the north, where dense vegetation concealed underground structures. Team Charlie secured the perimeter and maintained communication. It felt like stepping onto not just an island, but a scene that history would forever remember. Within 20 minutes, an officer reported that Team Bravo had discovered a secret entrance, a cleverly camouflaged steel panel beneath the rocks and grass. Below, they found a narrow, damp, and dark tunnel. The deeper they went, the closer they came to uncovering an unimaginable truth. Motion control systems, steel doors, and cold, windowless cells formed a complex labyrinth clearly designed to conceal all traces of illegal activity. In one main room, the team found 15 children, none of whom had identification or clear identities. Some could only communicate through gestures, their eyes filled with terror, while others whispered things like, "No one will find us." These words pierced the hearts of those who witnessed them. Other teams discovered even more disturbing areas, including an evaluation room with a recording system, behavior codes, and specialized equipment isolated from the outside world. Meanwhile, Team Alpha intercepted 2 ships attempting to leave the island, one of which had 3 armed men and 3 children locked in the back. Other ships had disappeared from the radar, slipping into international waters just minutes before the operation began. On the eastern side of the island, Team Charlie discovered a building that turned out to be a communications control center, complete with hard drives, encryption devices, and advanced data storage systems. Surveillance footage recorded continuously for over 3 years revealed periodic staff changes every few months. In total, 23 children were rescued, with 7 confirmed missing from the United States, 2 from Canada, and the rest still unidentified due to the lack of records. Some children wore numbered bracelets, while others had faint marks on their skin. These clues became invaluable to international investigators. Emergency doctors immediately began assessing the children's conditions and providing psychological support. A nearly 5-hour operation took place, and when the team withdrew, many members couldn't hide their emotions. A veteran officer, who had participated in rescue operations in the Middle East, broke down in tears upon seeing a young girl scribbling in a cell. The drawing depicted the silhouette of a man wearing sunglasses, holding a device resembling a remote control. The Black Ledger, once a symbol of power and secrecy, had now become a vivid piece of evidence, exposing a system hidden for years. More importantly, it opened a new hope for the small lives forgotten in the shadows. In a shocking development for both the public and authorities, the FBI issued a startling statement. Rick Harrison's seemingly meaningless whisper in the ICU, "A child is an island," was, in fact, a sophisticated encrypted message directly related to a covert operation called Pelican Drift. This declaration wasn't just the ramblings of a sick man, but the key to unlocking a darker truth than anyone could have imagined. Rick Harrison, the famous television personality from Pawn Stars, was no longer just a defendant awaiting trial. Investigators had confirmed that Rick played a crucial role in establishing and operating a detention facility, backed by his personal reputation and resources. However, the truth grew even more chilling when a spine-tingling question began to echo in the minds of the agents. If IS-1 was just the starting point, what were IS-2 and the third island listed in the ledger of 6 islands? The subsequent discoveries were even more shocking. A black leather-bound notebook was found in a secret compartment beneath the industrial freezer in Rick's basement in Las Vegas. It wasn't just an ordinary diary, but a detailed blueprint of an extremely sophisticated network with processes for transportation, logistics, and distribution, all written in code. One phrase in the notebook sent chills down the investigators' spines when they realized it wasn't just information about a new location, but a sign that a project was entering its final stages. By tracing bank transactions from 8 months before Rick's arrest, the financial investigation team uncovered over $1.3 million had been transferred through shell companies linked to a construction contractor in the Philippines, who had previously been suspected of involvement in illegal activities in Southeast Asia. The final clues pointed to a contract with Seaward Ventures Limited, the company that owned Pelican Drift, to build a rehabilitation facility on an unexplored island. Satellite images from late 2023 confirmed that an area had been cleared about 40 kilometers north of Muro's coastline. This island didn't appear on any commercial maps, but there were clear signs of a helicopter pad and systematically constructed structures. Infrared imagery revealed 3 hotspots, likely shelters or living quarters for people. Even more disturbing, the last pages of the notebook listed 9 individuals under the heading "Transported to IS-2", each accompanied by detailed notes, including the chilling words, "No valid ID." A payment of $145,000 was recorded as ready, along with a notification about the completion of thermal shielding. Subsequent orders related to solar panels, water filtration systems, and soundproofing indicated that IS-2 was being constructed as a self-sustaining facility capable of operating undetected for extended periods. With mounting evidence, a task force consisting of the FBI, Philippine Anti-Crime Intelligence, and International Special Operations units was established to intercept IS-2 before it could become operational. Using data from GPS logs and shipping receipts, they identified 3 small boat trips over the past 6 days, showing that preparations were nearly complete. The investigation was still ongoing, and the full truth about IS-2 had not yet been revealed. The trips, lasting 5 hours from Batanga City in February, March, and early April 2024, continued with seemingly harmless items like sports equipment, recovery tools, and educational supplies. However, files recovered from Rick's computer told a different story. A secure Word document retrieved from the digital trash revealed an important label, Batch M3 with 7 units, noting that they had been secured safely, and no need to increase sedation dosage for Rick's network. The next line sent chills down the investigators' spines. These children are not humans. They are cargo units. When the task force finally arrived at the IS-2 facility, they discovered an under-construction site, including a concrete bunker, a supply warehouse, and a fenced-off vegetable garden. No adults were present at the scene, but the reconnaissance team found 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls, in a state of severe exhaustion and shock. The children were immediately airlifted by military helicopter and transferred to a safe house in northern Luzon, where they would receive care in an unfinished bunker. Investigators discovered a handwritten manuscript titled Establishing ES-3, documenting a trip near Haiti and a survey report on a desolate seabed. This was the first specific clue about the third island, and it was clear that Rick had planned to expand his network to the southern Caribbean, a region scarcely patrolled, resembling a remote tropical paradise. This raised an unsettling feeling. How many islands like this exist? And how many paradises are actually facades for unimaginable activities? Rick Harrison couldn't have built this network on his own, though his name has now become the focal point of a media storm. In reality, Rick was able to operate in the shadows for years thanks to an invisible yet powerful force. His reputation and the active and passive complicity of those around him. His image as a friendly television father, an educated man, a historian, a family man, and a fair boss had become an almost impenetrable armor. It was a veil of anonymity that the world was just beginning to understand. For over a decade, Rick had meticulously controlled every frame of Pawn Stars. Every line of dialogue, every camera angle had to be personally approved by him. A producer who worked on the first 3 seasons revealed that Rick always insisted on having the final cut, never allowing scenes to air that made him appear weak or out of control. The role of his business and legal associates was equally undeniable. Shell companies like Seaward Ventures Limited and Sky Logistics were established through prestigious law firms in the U.S., Switzerland, and Panama. They handled the paperwork to create a facade of legality, but never questioned it. "We just followed the contract," a former finance employee who wished to remain anonymous said. "No one was allowed to inspect the goods. We just processed the transaction codes." This systemic indifference maintained a structure that was nearly undetectable from the outside, creating a parallel world hidden in plain sight. Even the celebrities who had appeared alongside Rick were shocked. However, some began to recall strange details. Rick had always avoided events involving children and once said, "Adults shouldn't have children unless they know how to raise them with an iron hand." What had once seemed like peculiar comments now echoed like chilling warnings. Even more terrifying was the silence of those close to Rick, who witnessed suspicious activities but were too fearful to speak out. A delivery driver who worked for Rick from 2017 to 2021 recalled hearing strange sounds coming from a steel container as he loaded it onto a truck in the middle of the night at a warehouse in North Las Vegas. When he attempted to call the police, the manager bluntly warned him, "Do you know who he is? Do you want to lose your job?" And so, he chose to remain silent. Once again, the power of group psychology proved its dangerous influence. Fans didn't just protect Rick at all costs, but also attacked anyone who dared question him. A woman who filed a complaint against Rick in 2018 faced severe online harassment, lost her job, and ultimately had to leave Nevada out of fear. Such actions allowed Rick to evade scrutiny for years, until the truth was finally brought to light. Reputation is not a crime, but when it becomes an impenetrable shield to silence victims, conceal the truth, and manipulate the public, that very reputation becomes an accomplice to the crime. A crime concealed by glamour and admiration. The final 6 words in Rick's confession in the hospital, "A child is an island," not only revealed a horrifying truth, but also exposed a culture of complicity deeply embedded in the media, the legal system, and public opinion. They force us to ask how many truths have been buried simply because the whistleblower wasn't famous enough and the accused was too famous to be suspected. As Rick's confession spread from the United States to other countries, an unprecedented journey began to uncover the islands where dozens of children were held illegally. Rick's words not only revealed Pelican Drift, where 23 children were rescued, but also pointed to another location. It was a vague, delirious statement, opening up a new investigation, deeper and more dangerous than anything we had ever known. In the United States, the Rick Harrison case has turned into a large-scale criminal prosecution. The Department of Justice officially announced that they would expand the charges not only against Rick, but also against a network of unidentified individuals suspected of being involved in transnational human trafficking, money laundering, and the destruction of federal evidence. To date, 38 victims have been identified, with 12 confirmed identities. However, humanitarian organizations believe the actual number could be 3 times higher, considering those who went missing between 2014 and 2022 and were never found. With what has been uncovered, we are not only witnessing the collapse of a television legend, but also facing the darkness hidden behind the masks created by power and wealth. The Rick Harrison case is not just a television scandal or a single crime, but a transnational crime network that has lasted for years without anyone suspecting it. As authorities began to follow the clues, everything seemed to get darker than ever, and the truth about the secrets hidden all this time started to emerge. One of the first details that raised suspicion was how Rick maintained complete control over everything related to Pawn Stars. From selecting the items for display, choosing customers, to deciding which scenes would air, Rick always ensured that he was the sole decision-maker. No one could truly understand why someone would need to control every aspect so meticulously. However, as investigators began to dig deeper into Rick's financial records and the shell companies he owned, everything gradually started to make sense. Investigators discovered that starting in 2015, Rick had begun setting up a network of shell companies that appeared legitimate, such as Sky Ventures, Seaward Enterprises, and Pelican Logistics, all of which were registered in jurisdictions with lax laws like Panama, Switzerland, and Caribbean islands. These companies not only helped Rick conceal financial transactions, but also created perfect facades for him to carry out illegal activities ranging from human trafficking and drug trafficking to arms dealing. All of this was done under the guise of companies owned by Rick, which allowed him to hide the truth for many years. But what sent chills down the investigators' spines wasn't just the financial documents or the underground transactions. They discovered evidence pointing to an extremely complex security system that Rick and his associates had set up. One former employee who worked at Pawn Stars revealed that Rick always insisted that staff never record or store information related to the transactions he conducted. All information, documents, and communications were encrypted, and only Rick knew how to decode them. What made this case even more complicated was the involvement of influential figures in the entertainment industry. Celebrities that Rick had collaborated with, including major stars and television producers, all had connections to this criminal network. Investigations uncovered that these individuals, whether directly or indirectly, had helped maintain and protect Rick's image in the public eye. One former producer of Pawn Stars revealed that in private meetings, Rick had proudly stated, "Everything can be bought, as long as you have enough money." What initially seemed like a harmless comment now served as a chilling reminder of the dark truth behind his career. The truth about the secret islands Rick owned began to unfold when investigators found several ancient maps and documents detailing secret shipping routes. One of these islands, codenamed IS-2, was located not far from the Caribbean region. IS-2 did not appear on any commercial maps, but evidence from financial transactions revealed that Rick had used a subsidiary company to purchase this island in 2017. The information obtained from the leaked files revealed that the island was equipped with temperature and sound control systems, with secret cells built to house children kidnapped from impoverished areas around the world. This island wasn't just a place where the children were held captive. It also served as a training ground where the victims were indoctrinated and groomed to become part of the human trafficking network. A deeper investigation into the shipments and flights from the shell companies Rick owned revealed that a large number of children were transported from Southeast Asia and African countries to the island before being moved to other locations to be involved in criminal activities. In particular, several witnesses recalled seeing refrigerated containers filled with children in captivity being transported via private planes and ships in the middle of the night. These disturbing accounts painted a chilling picture of the scale and scope of the operation. However, the most terrifying aspect came from those closest to Rick. A former member of Rick's security team, who had witnessed suspicious activities for years, recalled noticing large suitcases being brought into Rick's mansion late at night. When he asked about the suitcases, Rick's manager simply responded, "It's none of your business. Just deliver the items and stay quiet." These suitcases didn't contain ordinary objects or belongings, but rather children, humans who were held captive and exploited within a network that no one could have ever imagined. The investigation ultimately led to a large-scale raid on Rick's mansion in Las Vegas, where authorities recovered a significant amount of crucial evidence and documents. However, what terrified everyone the most was when the children were rescued from Rick's islands and warehouses. They couldn't remember their pasts. They had no clear memories of their families, friends, or even where they had lived. All that remained in their minds was fear, pain, and an indescribable sense of loss. The complexity of the Rick Harrison case lies not only in the scale of the criminal network he was involved in, but also in how he concealed his activities under the guise of a family man, a fair boss, and a beloved television personality. This case not only shook the entertainment industry, but also serves as a stark warning about how power, money, and fame can hide horrific crimes right before our eyes. The secrets surrounding Rick Harrison and the transnational crime network force us to rethink the world we thought we understood. But this investigation has only just begun, and the truth still lies beneath many layers of mystery. If you've been captivated by this story and want to stay updated on the shocking revelations to come, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any upcoming videos.